Are you stressed and filled with anxiety like I am? Maybe in a bit of pain from that car accident you had a few years ago? Well, the sponsor of today's episode, Hempville CBD, has us covered. They have the highest quality products created by chemists and doctors. Hempville carries everything from CBD to THC dispensary grade without those despicable dispensary prices. Order your Delta 8, 9 edibles and vapes along with the THCA flower and get free shipping when you spend $50 or more at hempvillecbd.com. Check out the link in the description for more details.
Welcome to the Filmistines, the podcast where we discuss all things movies. Join us as we dive deep into the latest releases, revisit classic films, and explore the art of cinema. Whether you're a film fanatic or just love a good flick, we've got you covered. From Hollywood blockbusters to indie gems, we'll be breaking down the storytelling, cinematography, and everything in between. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready for some cinematic magic. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level, where the $5 tier will grant the ability to request films for future episodes. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience. All around you. And welcome back to another episode of the Filmistines. Thank you for tuning in today. I am joined today by my Great Depression friend, Lucy.
That's better.
Or should I say, greatly depressed?
Yes. That's even funnier. Hello, everyone.
Welcome. I'm glad you could make it today.
You're welcome. You're all welcome.
You can join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for brand new episodes of The Filmistines. Some recent episodes include Five Nights at Freddy's, The Exorcist, Believer, When Evil Lurks, The Passion of the Christ, What's a Christ? Find out in our episode, and Sound of Freedom.
Did you say what's a Christ?
But today's episode is a fun one. The Gary Sinise directed Of Mice and Men, the 1992 film about some hobos.
I mean, you're not completely off. They're trying hobos.
They're working hobos.
They're working hobos, yep.
They have websites for that today.
They do?
I think HelpX is one, helpx.com, if you want to live the life of the mice and men.
Oh, for real?
Mm-hmm.
You go work and they give you food and a place to stay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it's kind of a contractual thing. You don't have to stay, but it's like a seasonal thing where the time is up at some point. Yeah.
Oh.
I knew a guy who worked on an orange farm an orange orchard. Does that sound right? I think in Hawaii he was at for a few months. And then he went somewhere else.
Interesting.
And then like once a year he would come by and tell us about his travels. And
I didn't know that was a thing.
yeah, there's different websites you can just sign up and you just gotta get there. And then you make some money. A lot of your betting and stuff comes with just the work, and you make that little bit of money to go on to the next place. So.
Cool. Maybe when I want to fulfill my hobo adventure.
Yeah, I wonder how easy it is to jump on a train.
I'm sure if you catch it when it's not moving fast, easy peasy.
Yeah, I've never seen the train doors open though, so I don't know how that works exactly. They're just in movies. They're always conveniently open. Maybe that is how it used to be.
Maybe you gotta like plan it out with one of the crew members. Like, all right, I'll give you $100 if you leave this door open.
But Of Mice and Men, the 1992 film, I'm here to report that I'm pleasantly surprised that it's very good.
That's funny.
I just kept thinking, I guess after the movie, I was just like, how are movies just not at least this good? Like I know it's kind of a simple premise, very focused and very character driven. Not all movies abide by, those elements, right? But this is just a movie that knows exactly what it is, probably because it has very focused source material and maybe has the advantage of not having a lot of it to work with and allowing the film to kind of massage every bit of the novel or novella, I guess it's so short, into all the corners of the movie that it, feels like it wants to, because I guess most things run into the problem of having too much to work with and not, and it kind of having to run with very specific things or run with a completely precise kind of through line, like The Shining I'm thinking of. It doesn't have a lot to do with the book outside of the characters.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Harry Potter films.
Of course.
Especially the later ones that are, massive.
They should have all had 3-part movies probably, so they would probably today. That's why we're seeing a show happening here in the next few years. But I'm not gonna lie, I thought this movie was going to be boring as fuck.
We probably still have a bad taste of To Kill a Mockingbird in our mouth from film, movie, like a classic American book that they make you read in school turned into film.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That is fair.
I was thinking the same thing. I read this book. I read Of Mice and Men in high school, and I never saw the movie, just read the book. And so I was really curious to see the film, and I'm glad we did.
Well, how would you like to take this conversation? Tell me your gut thoughts on this film, because you are intimately familiar with the book.
I'm really surprised by how close it is to the source material. There's very few movies I've seen. I mean, very few. I can actually only think of another one that follows the book almost to a T. I mean, I was very pleasantly surprised. There were probably about, 5 to 10 differences in the whole entire book and the movie, which is crazy because, the book is maybe a 2-hour read? 1 to 2 hour read? I don't know. Depends on how fast you read. Could be 3 hours for all you slow readers out there. And the film is about 2 hours, right? It's like 111 minutes. Yeah. So, it's not directly proportional. It's not directly, if the book takes you this long, then the movie should be this long, but it's fairly close. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate when you're kind of standing back from your own creative storytelling, and you're using what was given to you, and your responsibility is to express that visually to an audience, not taking any, creative liberties like Ender's Game. You know what? Let's make Ender old as fuck. Okay, we've talked about how child actors aren't that great, so that's why they had to make him a little older. Okay, I get that. But then you make Petra his love interest when nowhere in the book is she a love interest. She actually goes with some other dude. So it didn't even happen in the future. And just all these directors thinking they can take these creative liberties that don't follow the source material, and just sometimes it's no, sometimes you're wrong, you can't do that to these characters. Probably one of my biggest pet peeve of this is taking Dobby out of the Harry Potter franchise. He was very critical in a lot of the story behind Harry and what he gets into and stuff. So to have him missing and then bring him back in the end to die, that should have hit harder on a lot of the Harry Potter fans and people who didn't read the books but still love the movies. Like, I don't know, that was a great miss. Yeah,
and it has everything to do with the screenwriters / directors not knowing what's important from the books.
Yes.
But it's also, Harry Potter is a really interesting kind of example because J.K. Rowling was so obsessed with being part of the production of that, but I guess
oh yeah, that's true.
Not enough as far as like on a story level, maybe on a marketing producer level, but the creative side of the filmmaking, I guess, kind of was underserved, probably because she was so obsessed with the politics of it all.
Yeah, and then I was reading here that Gary Sinise saw a school play of Mice and Men when he was in school, and it absolutely broke him. I mean, he fell in love with the story, he fell in love with it, and he was just crazily inspired by it all. So, of course, that turns into a great film. I wonder how many of the Harry Potter or even Ender's Game directors read the book and followed the books enough to be moved by it. So you can tell there's a lot of heart here in this movie. In this movie. And I appreciate that. I think he does a great job capturing what the book is trying to tell us. You know, some of the great themes in this book. Loneliness is really the big one here. You know, we have the American dream, the Great Depression stuff. But I really liked how he captured the loneliness and I really liked how he captured the loneliness of a lot of these characters. But then he introduces some characters here that aren't lonely. We have these two guys that are companions. They're friends. They're best friends. And that was a rare thing in these days. So I really love that overall theme. And I think he captured the loneliness theme here a little bit better than the book did. I think he kind of got a little bit more compassionate with some of the side characters, like Curly's wife, played by Sherilyn Fenn, which we know her as Audrey from Twin Peaks, which was cool. I didn't know she was going to be in this. And I like her a lot in Twin Peaks, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, her and Coop are the stars.
Yeah, exactly. But in the book, he focuses on her and kind of how she's just a flirt. They call her, a tramp. They call her a tart. They say she has the eye, which I think that just means she likes to look around at other men. I'm not sure. It's not a disease. Not sure exactly what the eye is, but they're like, oh, she has the eye. And I feel like our director here just takes that and turns it into, that's the reason she's lonely. That's the reason she needs to flirt, or she needs to, have the eye. She needs to look around because she's lonely as fuck. We see how Curly is. We see what a fucking, deadbeat husband he is. And I think he did a wonderful job capturing that. And then not to mention the actress did an amazing job here too. And then another of our, side characters was Crooks. He's not mentioned too much in the book. And I guess he's not in the movie, but he just stands out in the movie so much. I mean, there's one thing when you say he has a crooked back versus seeing this black man on the screen 90 degrees. It's so cool how you read it one way and then you see it and it's like, oh shit, he's got a crooked back.
It's almost surrealistic.
Yeah, pretty neat. And so maybe he doesn't have quite more film time versus book time, but I think he definitely stands out in the film way more, and we get to see a little bit of his loneliness. You can describe a room in a certain way in a book, but seeing it on screen, you can actually see how tiny it is, or you can actually see how messed up it is, or the contents of it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So I just think he did a wonderful job doing that, too.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene in the movie, actually, when Lennie stumbled in the Crooks room, and Crooks had this whole almost meltdown with socializing with someone for the first time in God knows how long,
Yeah.
We're reminded that he's talking to Lennie, and we have heard, I think up to that point, we haven't really seen much, but we know Lennie kind of has a beastie side. He kind of loses control of his temper in some way.
In the movie, I feel like Lennie is a bit more childish or childlike. He's kind of has this, when kids see something cute, they just clench up their hands and they start shaking and they can't control it. Kind of like that. But I feel like in the book, he's just kind of slower. He's still a man, a grown up, but he's just slower at doing things and slower at getting things. So in the film, it's like he never managed to learn that you can't hurt cute things. You can't hurt the animals. I've seen my nephew squeeze the shit out of my cat just because it's so fucking cute and fluffy. He gets so excited. And that's like Lennie. Except, my nephew is, 2 feet tall? 15 pounds? I don't know how much a 1-year-old weighs, but Lennie is a big ass dude. He's not even a normal average guy. He's a big ass guy.
Yeah.
So
he's kind of scary when
it's
he
very
gets
scary.
excited.
But you were talking about that's one of your favorite scenes in that room with Crooks and Lennie. Well, in the book, Lennie goes in there like he does in the movie, and then Candy goes in there, the old guy. And Candy's like, Lennie, what the fuck are you doing in here? No one goes in here. And then Crooks is kind of like, you want to come in too? Fine, I guess you can come in too. Here, come sit over here. Like, he's angry about it, but he's not. He's like so fucking happy that he's getting more company. And then they're talking about the farm or their American farm dream. And then Audrey comes in. Oh, not Audrey. I'm going to call her Audrey. She's got no name in the book and the film. I don't think they gave her a name, did they?
No, Sherilyn called her Daisy, though, on set.
She called her Daisy on set? Okay, Daisy, she walks in after they hear, and she's like, hey, have you seen Curly? They're like, no, get the fuck out of here. And she starts coming in too, like, well, what are y'all doing? You know, let me hang out with y'all. How do you feel about that? Do you think that should have been included in the movie?
I liked everything about that scene. If there were more people in that room, it would have felt, for one, I guess, less scary for Crooks' life. And that was a really nice build-up throughout that, little 4 or 5 minute scene, maybe a little bit longer even, because it was really explosive. It was really the explosive performance of the whole movie was with Crooks, I think. Mm-hmm. And then it's, he says these things, and Lennie's just in his own world. He's like, you think the puppies are gonna be ready? I'm gonna have rabbits. And Crooks is like, nah, you're nuts.
The fuck you
and
said?
Then it just kind of builds and builds and builds, and then all of a sudden it just kind of snaps and completely flips in where the energy is coming from. Because, yeah, Crooks is sort of excited and, of course, still on edge because he's who he is at this time in the world, right?
Right.
So he's he's a man that lives on edge. I imagine a lot of farmers just by nature, fucking animals out and about, the hard work they're doing, the dangers of it. But I just love the flippin' energy is one of the real big things that sticks out in that scene and the whole movie for me too. And additional people would have completely changed the mood of that situation. And it sounds like in the book it probably didn't add much to the overarching story. And so it sounds like here it may have been a little bit of a stylistic choice of Gary's, which I think, from what I could tell, it sounds like Gary really just took kind of stylistic divergences and, like, at the end, not hesitating quite as much, or at least because it's a cinematic telling of it, you can see the hesitation the whole time at the end there, right before he kills Lennie.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the end now or later.
We'll talk about it later, but I'm just kind of pointing out, I guess, the stylistic choices that I think should be embraced in cinematic adaptations of books, right? Because it's different. The book already exists. We don't need the book, but we should do it justice at the same time. Whatever that means to you, you should run with it, right? Stanley Kubrick thought the character of Jack was a really interesting focus, and that's what he ran with, right?
Yep.
Harry Potter, there was not a lot of focus, except in the first one. I think the world was the focus. The magic, excuse the pun, of the world was the magic, and Chris Columbus is a master of that.
Yeah, and that's probably the first and second one are the ones that stay the most true to their source material. Yeah,
and kind of, you got to wonder what a Chris Columbus Harry Potter world would have looked like if he would have continued the whole series, which I'm sure he didn't want to spend 15 fucking years working on it all, but it really would have been cool if he did.
Not all heroes wear capes. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Hopefully he's consulting on the show.
Yeah.
But I really liked Crooks' character, and I was kind of curious what his character looked like in the book. And it doesn't sound like it was much more, maybe less.
Yeah, about the same, really.
And his nickname, how he looks, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was excellently created, and then the him getting pushed into the bed by Lennie and just staying there, and then kind of you could see him relax when Gary got there, like just a little bit, and it was a really interesting it was a very interesting scene in the middle of a very naturalistic, super well executed, kind of overall movie we got going on here. So that it really stuck out with me, I guess, on that, because also Crooks was immediately, when they got to the farm, Crooks was immediately this mysterious character. We don't get a close up of him. He's just he's this 90-degree angle hobbling into the barn, and you're just like,
did I see that right?
What? Like, I was commenting on Lynchianism, and you recently said that not every good movie is Lynchian, but that is some Lynchian shit. That one specific thing, you could see that in Twin Peaks or something so easily.
Yeah, that one bit.
Yeah, just that one bit. Agree, only through aesthetic, though. No, there's no Lynchian mood or cadence here.
Yeah.
But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. It sounds like in the book, too, there may have been a slight of a bit of a more focus on Audrey, on Sherilyn.
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Because I really like her position in all of this. She's this could have been actress.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very tropey thing of people growing up in that time. I was, you're mildly attractive, so you've got natural talent, of course.
Of course.
And that's a fun trope. I'm sure if we saw too many old movies or movies that took place at that time, it'd get kind of old, but it's a fun trope. I like it. But I like that she's also this just consistent kind of temptation in such a way that I don't even think you can be sure that it's sexual. I think it is first and foremost social. And I think that's a nice little spectrum to live in and bounce between. And it obviously bites her in the ass.
Yup.
And I like that about her a lot. And I'm glad she didn't become a character. We didn't paint her very much, but we were reminded at times just enough with all the characters, but especially the George and Lennie's kind of boss, and then the old Candy, and then the Sherilyn's character, that they are human. We got really human qualities out of them, and that it started to really naturalize the film on a really fundamental level. And I don't know, it just it does a really good job painting a sort of slice of life of, the time period, the Great Depression.
Yeah, it does a great job telling you the harsh realities here.
Yeah, but at the same time focusing on a very specific, but not so specific, because it really is just one of many American dreams out there, but it's so humble and so small and so just, we want to live and let be, earn our keep, support ourselves, live off the land. It just,
yeah, like when he gives his, little speech saying, if there's a man on my property, I can just kick him out, tell him to get the hell out. And if a friend comes, I have an extra bed, he can stay there.
His American dream is just a little bit of control in life.
Yeah.
It's so small, but it's just
freedom.
It's freedom. Yeah, and it's such a admirable kind of little, because people want big stuff. They want stuff, I guess, for one, and they want a lot of it, or they want to be famous or known for something. They want these accomplishments, but there's just something really cool about a couple characters, really just one character, and Lennie's just along for the ride to balance George, really, and they just want a little bit of certainty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really cool, and it feels very naturalistic, and I don't know, I guess for all the buzzwords out there, it feels very immersive in that way. It sets its world up in a really just focused way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's almost funny how the American dream has always been, and even still to today, to own land, to own a house, to own some property. And it still stays true. And probably the best and saddest part about this movie is that they don't accomplish their dream.
Like so many other people.
Like so many other people. Yeah.
At that time.
A lot of people, man. Yeah, Daisy's character here in the book didn't have a lot more than the film, but she was described very differently in the book. You know, in the movie she's not very flirtatious and, you know, throwing herself around and that kind of stuff. In the book, and this is where maybe it's up to interpretation, I guess, but in the book she is, but you're not getting her perspective in the book. You're just getting the perspective of how people see her. So I know I was reading one review of someone being mad that they got her character completely wrong in the film. You know, she's just this flirty, trampy girl who, you know, she doesn't even have a name, so we're not supposed to even humanize her. We're not even supposed to give a fuck about her, basically. And how Steinbeck would be mad that we're doing this. And I don't know what he was going on about, but I think he's missing the point. I think he's missing the point that she's just as lonely as these guys.
Yeah, and it's George and Lennie's perspective, and they're gonna
see her how they see her.
Yeah, and they're gonna keep to themselves because they're not really interested in getting into something like that. So why would they even know her name? You know, they're gonna be here for a couple months. There's no reason. They try to avoid her. George, at least, tries to avoid her at all costs.
Like, that's Curly's wife. That's Curly's wife.
Yeah.
Nothing more to that. So I think the guy that said that completely missed the point, but there were a few reviews, or I guess a few comments saying that her character wasn't portrayed like it should have been, which I completely disagree. I think her character was done phenomenally.
They wanted her to be more flirtatious?
Well,
I feel like they humanized her a little bit here. Because...
yeah. They're saying she's not supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, and that's that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to read in between the lines there, people, and know that she is not flirtatious. Or maybe she is. I mean, some people confuse flirting with some people just being nice and some people just kind of being confident or being out there. You know, I guess especially back then, women just weren't going to go talk to dirty men in overalls. You know, they're going to stick to their house stuff. I don't know.
Their air conditioning.
Yeah, exactly. But she's not, because her husband doesn't pay her any attention. Her father-in-law is probably paying her even less attention, and that's all who she's got. But there's all these fun men out there like 10 feet away. Why the hell can't I go talk to them? And if a woman's talking to you, she must be flirting, you know? At least in their eyes, and that's how they portrayed her.
And I guess if you think she should just be a flirt, that's just weirdly, strictly animalistic, you know? She's more complicated than that.
Yep.
And it's one of the advantages of book versus movies, you know? In a book, you can get much more of a tuned in, very specific perspective, because you can be within the mind of a person pretty much the entire time of a book.
Mm-hmm.
You get much less of that in a movie.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah.
You see your character. You're not in their head. You can be at times, but that's just not the nature of film. I mean, Gary obviously knew it. In a situation like this, you have to humanize everyone at every chance. You have to naturalize the situation, especially because of it being at a real place and time.
Mm-hmm.
And a real situation, you know, farmers, lady living with father-in-law and husband, and it's just, you know, it's a very natural situation, and so that's a funny situation to have a problem with.
Yeah, maybe that's why people don't read as much as they watch movies.
Yeah, sure, that definitely might be part of it. Yeah,
a book, you have to analyze it. You have to read it multiple times to truly get, you know, at least good books. You know, I've read some books that, Jesus, I wish I wouldn't have read those books. Yeah, but it's pretty silly of anyone to say that about her character.
Yeah, it's a little funny too, I guess, because you would think making a character more complicated would normally be a good thing. Dumbing the character down is usually the bad thing. Making them more flat is usually the wrong route to go. But they made her a person. She's not a character. She's just a person now. And she's not just a flirt. She's not just a temptress.
Yeah, and you might actually be sad when she dies.
And that's a good point. If she's just a temptress, yeah, you're not going to be sad.
Yeah. Who had the best performance?
Well, I liked Crooks' little spectacle performance. But as far as like main characters go, I think Lennie obviously stole the show with John Malkovich.
Oh.
Because if you just know John Malkovich out of, from other stuff, you're just like, this is crazy. This is craziness. It's kind of like Leo's character in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. So it's got a kind of similar, just, pulling this out of left field kind of. I guess we didn't really know Leo at that time, like we do Malkovich now a little bit. But if you look at Leo's filmography, Gilbert Grape's performance still stands out. It's just like that's crazy. And he was a kid. That makes it even crazier. I guess he was probably around 17, 18, 19, right? Because he was 18 in the movie, somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
In the ballpark. But John Malkovich, he similar, but I don't know. I haven't seen an awful lot of his films before this, but I have seen several of his things, and he plays kind of a similar mannered character in a lot of his movies, and this is just completely like, how did you get this out of someone?
Yeah.
And that's always that's always an explosive thing to see. You're like, I don't know. It's just like, God damn, like this dude. How does he do this? I don't know. It kind of makes me speechless, I guess. You gotta wonder about the relationship with John Malkovich and Gary. There must have been a crazy synergy between the two.
Yeah, I wasn't 100% sold on their chemistry, on Lennie and George being the best friend type. I don't know what about it just didn't 100% sell it to me. I think it might have been the end too, but I think there was something there missing, especially when you have something like Johnny Depp and Leo's chemistry and What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I mean, that's something completely different than what I saw here. So I don't know about that.
Yeah, I didn't get best friend relationship out of these two. Am I supposed to? Is that what came across in the book? Well,
they're companions. They're looking out for each other. I mean, not buddy best friends. Let's go shopping. I mean, what's a best friend? Someone you enjoy spending time with, someone you enjoy talking to, someone you would shoot in the back of the head if you had to. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. That's it's what they say about dogs, right?
What?
They're man's best friend.
Man's best, exactly. There you go.
You'll shoot them in the back of the head if you have to.
Yep. Lennie is George's best friend.
Yeah, I guess so. On some level, and the frustration, from George helps build kind of history between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we don't really get any history between the two, which is good, I think, for setting the stage of the realism of the movie, because they're just working. They're not writing memoirs and shit. They're not telling anyone their life story and how they met and stuff and everything. We get a little bit of a quip coming from George when he talks to the big boss about how they're cousins or whatever and stuff. And I almost wish that wasn't even addressed and they just kept that up for, they're cousins, but you don't really know. And then maybe they play it up somewhere else that kind of conflicts with that. And that would have been kind of nice. Give you this, what is their history?
Yeah.
I don't think they're cousins, but he said they're cousins, but he was clearly joking, that kind of thing. That would have been kind of fun to play that up. Just one little line too, not too much. We don't even make that a thread, because we get that Aunt Clara's brought up several times by name, so you get some sense of George knew Clara in some way. And generally, I think you only know people's family if there's some kind of deep history between the two. So there's some deep history between the two, and I think George does a pretty good job being frustrated and And I guess we have the fun intro too that really helps set the stage for that. Lennie is a little bit of a problem at times. And so they're kind of on the run at different times in their lives. And so they've done the hobo thing, finding new work, probably several times. It's normal, and then of course we have to have some kind of different ending because we have a movie and there's a book. So they can't just move on to the next farm. That's not really how anything works. It's not how stories work. So I like their relationship. They're best friends on some level, but it's kind of like having a dog as your best friend, where they're not really your best friend. Yeah, sure, on some kind of primal evolutionary level they might be, but that's different from a social level.
Yeah.
And Lennie doesn't serve on any social level. He's basically a dog.
Yeah, I guess than just the companionship of a best friend.
And I think there's something a little deeper there too, because he is a human being and he grew up with him, right? Presumably, that there's this sense of family with him, and that he, that family bond is just acts really weird, like you just have to take care of these people, kind of thing with him. So I get a sense of it being kind of complicated within George, and I like that.
I thought all the performances were pretty good, better than average at least. I really liked Candy's performance. I think he did a great job. If you couldn't tell by now, I really liked Curly's wife's performance a lot. I kind of even liked Curly. I think he did a great job playing that like tough guy and has deep issues about being short.
Yeah, he owned it.
Yes, he did.
You gotta love that, where when when actors have mildly small roles and they just own it. It doesn't matter how small it is. You gotta love that.
Yes.
And that's awesome. Yeah, totally.
I do wish Slim would have been a better character. I wish they would have gotten a better actor.
Oh, really?
Or, I mean, I think a better actor, because he's very different in the book than how he's portrayed in the film. And I think they try to give him what he is in the book. He's the leader. He's the man that everybody looks up to. He's the well-respected guy. He's very soft-spoken. When he says something, everyone in the room goes quiet and, all attention is on him. Whatever he says is the word. And I didn't get that here from John Terry.
Yeah, I got the impression that he was one of a few foreman type thing going on here. Because he said in the beginning that you're going to be working, like you're going to be in my platoon. So I got here that he was kind of one of a few supervisors or crew leaders. Mm-hmm. That's not the case?
I mean, he's, I guess, the leader of one of the crews, but he's really the leader of everybody.
Okay.
He's the leader of one of the crews on paper, but...
Yeah, I didn't get the sense of authority out of him like that. I got the sense that he, I guess, really is just the foreman and has a lot of history with working on the farm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when there's issues, you go to Slim.
Okay.
No matter what the issue is.
Okay.
So, I think they tried to do a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially at the end when Candy finds, the dead girl, and he goes to Slim and he tells her, he didn't tell Curly. He didn't say, hey, Curly, your wife's dead over here. He goes and tells Slim.
Yeah, and then Curly looks for Slim specifically at some point too, yeah.
So I think they tried, but it should have been delivered way better than it was.
Yeah, a little bit more control out on the farm maybe could have helped that. Yeah. Speaking of which, I thought all the equipment and stuff out on the farm and all the guys working was really cool.
Oh man, yes.
I was like, damn, are these guys actually working?
Yes.
Are these actual farmers? That was really cool.
That was cool. I put down that the working montages were probably some of my favorites. Especially when Lennie's like, he's a hard worker, I guess. And he's just throwing the bags of barley at them. They can't keep up and they have to switch out their shift.
Yeah, they do a great job with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, all the All the costumes, set designs, props here, they're cool. They're cool as fuck. They did a great job.
Yeah, like I was saying, it kind of feeds into that naturalistic, just micro world they created here, and it grounds the shit out of it. It's really something, actually, for such a small, focused thing. I know it's legendary literature as far as, learning about foreshadowing and learning about
That time period, too.
the time period. Yeah, of course. And maybe some kind of dualistic rational George and irrational Lennie kind of thing. Like there's this tug and pull, just like there is in each and every one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's something to say about that too, about I don't know how far it can go, but is there something to say about Lennie and George representing your human side and your animal side?
Yeah, I guess the way I saw it is more like Lennie representing your childlike side and George representing your adult phase where you're tired, you're done.
Yeah, I guess we are born animals and have to learn how to be humans. So that's the route. Yeah, I guess that's the better angle to tackle that. And then I guess there's something even maybe to say about when George does kill Lennie at the end. It is a moment of maturity and losing your crazy adolescence, knowing when to flip that switch. What do you think about that? I would be. You can't ask any modern high school teachers, but I would be curious to know why exactly.
You hear that, modern high school teachers? Go read a book.
I would be very curious to know why exactly Of Mice and Men is one of like the 5 books that are just so important to high school literature. I wonder, because my mind goes straight to the foreshadowing, but it can't just be that, because it's such a clean example of foreshadow. There's just, we haven't really talked about it, but I think it borders on being too on the nose, but it lives in that, like, it just lives in that perfect clean ass, like they did that space. And I'm talking about with Candy and his dog, and George and his dog.
Yes.
But I don't know if it can be much more than that. I do like that a lot, though, and Candy's performance is just, they do such a really good job setting that up too. Oh my god.
The old dog?
That guy taking out the old dog, like they dog on him. They're like, they're they basically beg him. They beg Candy to allow them to take the old dog out and put him down, and he's just like, no. He's like, that was my dog. And then he's like, well, tomorrow. And then he's like, all right, well, I guess, you fucking peer pressured the shit out of me with everyone here looking at me. And then they let that. I felt like a movie today, or a movie that wasn't so thoughtful, would have shot that dog much sooner than they did. But they let 2 or 3, 4 or 5 minutes, I'm not even sure, go by, and they let the rummy game start playing. They let you almost forget about Candy's dog, and then it happens, and then Candy just fucking, he's sad. Like, it's really, really good.
Yes.
It's like unbelievably good.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of stories are very well written that have this many themes in it, but yet it's short enough to get people to read it. It's such a short book, and yet you cover so much, and it's a great example of having to think about what you're reading. One sentence, one statement from one character says a lot, and you have to interpret it. I mean, that's what makes a great book. Makes you think. And on top of that, it's got such a shocking ending that...
But it's kind of funny, though, because if you were paying attention, it almost shouldn't be. But it is.
Yeah, I mean, you can't foreshadow that he's gonna shoot him. You can't. You're if you're, a decent human being, like most of us, you're not gonna think that.
And that's one of the really cool spaces, I guess, Steinbeck
and then it
lived in.
happens.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes a great.
You're just like, that's genius. I mean, it's like when you are being lectured or whatever, you're watching something, you're reading about something, you're getting all this information in, and you're just like, okay, yeah, I think I'm getting that, and then that thing happens, and you're like, it all makes sense. It's all crazy crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, really, things make sense on a different level.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great book. So, how did you feel about the scene where Lennie pretends he has the dog in his overalls, and then George was like, "I told you to keep that dog out," and then Lennie's like, "I just tricked you, George. Like, you stupid. I don't have no puppy in my overalls."
Was that in the book?
No. How'd you feel about that stylistic choice?
So that just, I guess that is one of many instances that Gary knew exactly that this was a different Lennie than our book Lennie. And it really does embrace and focus. It really does embrace, and it really does embrace that childlike thing, like you said.
Yeah.
In that, no doubt. That playfulness, the pranksterness, right? That he's not just mentally handicapped or whatever. He's like stuck. His mind's underdeveloped, it feels. And I like that. I guess I like that Gary, our director, knows what his character is.
Yeah. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
I like it too. That's probably up there on my favorite scenes. You know, rereading the book, I guess it's been a while since I read the book, first of all, but rereading it, it was interesting that wasn't in there, and I really like that he put that in there. It really built to this different Lennie, as you said it, and it made me laugh.
It's a great little nugget of performance coming out of John Malkovich too. It's rare when you see someone own an extreme character like that, and he does an excellent job.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing I liked about this film was the inability to let us forget Lennie and George's American dream, and Lennie wanting to hear the story and stuff. I liked that a lot, and how the story didn't change, but the way he told it changed just a little bit. Like through the 3 or 4 times he told part of it. I liked that. That was nice, human, naturalistic kind of texture to the motivation of why everything is in this for them. I like that a lot. The way that it changed and the way Lennie interrupted him and stuff, and it was really good.
Yeah, and it ties back into the loneliness theme when Candy hears them talking about it, and he's like, "Wait, what did you just say? You know a place like this?" And he's like, "Nah, man, we're just dreaming." He's like, "Because if you know of a place like this, I'm in. Like, I'm old. I don't have no family. I'm gonna get fired soon. I have money." And they're like, "Wait a minute, you have money?" And then all of a sudden, it gets real. It gets real fast, and that's probably the hardest part of this book/movie. That it wasn't just the dream. It was the dream's right there. By the end of the month, they could have the money. It's so close. It's not even a sad book/movie. It's depressing as fuck because it's so hopeless. Cause it's so hopeful and then so hopeless all at the same time.
It's kind of funny for such a realistic film to be so hopeless.
And at the end, or near the end, when Candy finds her body, and he tells George, he asks him, "Do you still think we can get the place?" Like, desperate. Like, just desperation. And then George didn't say anything, and he's like, "I know the answer, but I still had to ask." And then he starts cussing out the dead body. And basically, calling her all these names, and how, why'd you have to ruin everything? And we had this thing going on. And that would have been pretty cool to see on film. Him just being so mad, so desperate, that he's gonna, cuss a dead body out.
They must have not gotten a good take of that, because that seemed like that would have elevated the desperation and the closeness of where they were on that mission.
Yeah.
They must have not gotten a good take. It seemed like such an obvious inclusion, unless Gary felt it was a little too much for Candy's character.
Yeah, I don't know. Both of those make sense. We do have a little bit more fleshed out Candy in the book. He has a lot more, not a lot more. He has just maybe one or two more interactions with Lennie or with George or with whomever, and we see a little bit more of his wanting to get out of this place. So maybe he just felt like he didn't capture that. He decided to focus on other things, so all of a sudden making him that kind of character wouldn't make too much sense, because our Candy here in the film isn't cussing anyone out.
Yeah, see, why aren't the people who are bitching about Cheryl Lynn's character bitching about something like this? This is much more relevant to driving home our themes.
Yeah.
That's strange. You didn't see that, did you?
No. Yeah, that was a little not hard to read, but that was hard to visualize reading Candy being that desperate. But let's talk about the end.
Yeah, the end was... It lives in this weird space between shocking and now I get it kind of territory.
Mm-hmm.
I know I read that in the book it's a little more drug out.
Yes. In the book, he hesitates a lot. He puts the gun up to his head and then brings it back down, and his hand's shaking. He can't steady himself. He's telling him about the land that they're going to get and how they're going to live and how he's going to tend to the rabbits and, drags it out. Not in the film.
No, and like I was saying earlier, I think that hesitation is easier to capture when, George is on the move, the way we see him. Because in a book, it's... You kind of need to describe the hesitation a little more, and there's a little more nuance that can happen through a camera in that way. So I still felt like there was, hesitation. I didn't feel like that was weirdly just out of pocket, for him to do that. It felt like, especially in retrospect, it felt like that was already entering his mind when he left the barn.
Of course, because he stole Carlson's gun.
Yeah.
He stole the gun. He knew what he was about to go do. I do wish it would have been more hesitated in the film, like it was in the book. I didn't feel the hesitation.
I could see them kind of having that exchange a little more about the rabbits in the house and stuff going on a little bit longer, and then maybe George gets teary-eyed,
and
we get kind of a close-up on him, and maybe we don't even see him shoot Lennie.
Yeah.
It's just on his face as he does it. I could see that working really well, but they really kind of tried to capture the putting down a dog thing, I think.
Yeah, no matter how they did it, they got the shock value that they wanted.
They earned it. They set it up.
Yeah.
It was executed greatly. I guess it's hard to say anything perfect, but it's a masterclass execution, no doubt. I did briefly think that maybe George might get in the way of Lennie and the others, and he might get killed too.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were both about to die here, but that obviously didn't happen. I did kind of get that feeling, but I guess they just threw the guys on the horses and yelling and looking for him and stuff. They just kind of maintained that tension of them being close. So I kind of got that feeling, but
yeah, I guess just for my own sake, I wish it would have been dragged out a bit more just so I could feel the sadness, but that's just me being a masochist.
Let the cry build up.
Yes.
A little more, because it
was too
so
fast.
quick that
Yes.
I don't know if it's gonna get you a real cry out of you. You might get a teary eyed for just a split second, but it doesn't linger on anything to let that cry happen.
Yeah.
And I guess I appreciate that on some level, that those indicates the situation kind of indicated that there's just no room. There's no time to cry. We can't deal with these the little things. We gotta keep fighting towards that next thing. There's no time to think about what you're about to do. There's no time to reflect. Just gotta put the dog down.
Yeah, well, I mean, even the dog had some hesitation. That was drawn out between when they took him and when we heard the shot.
Well, we don't see the hesitation. We just I think you're supposed to get the impression that he was taken kind of far away, and he was because of how the gunshot sounded. He was pretty far out. He walked him out. But
we still felt that drawn out.
Yeah, but I feel like that was for a different reason. That was to basically make you forget, to get you back in the mode of the movie, and then boom, reminded immediately,
Yeah, but no one's forgetting. You're just waiting for it. You know what I'm saying? I was waiting for it.
Yeah, well, it's hard not to wait for it.
Yeah.
But
so I think they could have played that up. Is he gonna do it? Is he not gonna do it? And this is his buddy. He should show some hesitation. This is still another human being. But I mean, regardless, it was still a very shocking ending. And they still captured it really well.
All right, man. Well, do you have a budget guess for me?
My budget guess is 10 million, just for the time of when this took place and the length of the movie. But it was still a very simple movie, so I don't know. I think I'm overshooting with 10.
Yeah, man. I can't find the budget. There's no budgets online. But I think 10 million is probably a little high. I'm not sure where I would place this. I probably would put it closer to like 2 million. But I don't know. That seems awfully low. But that's kind of what I'm feeling.
Okay, yeah, interesting. I can't find it either.
But it did go on to make $5.5 million, which I would assume is probably pretty okay for this movie.
Yeah, it might have been 1 million.
It might have been 1 million, yeah. Well, man, thank you for watching this movie with me.
You're welcome.
And more importantly, thank you for talking about this film with me. That was a good talk.
You're welcome. That was a good talk.
You had fun.
I had fun.
Remember, you can catch us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for brand new episodes of The Filmistines on all your favorite podcast platforms. Go check out our Patreon. Go request a film on our Patreon.
Go check out our YouTube.
Request your favorite film, please, not your least favorite.
Not something that you want us to.
Yeah, don't you dare fucking
torture.
recommend Disney's Pinocchio, like the recent one.
Oh.
Don't you dare. That's no one's favorite movie. It's my favorite movie to wipe my ass with, but.
Damn.
But until next time.
You're gonna get splinters.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Filmistines. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines, and follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is The Filmistines, signing off.